All right, let's move on to our next guest, John Vandermosten, Senior Biotech Analyst at Zacks Small Cap Research. All right, John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. You have got some new things for us today. All right. And then, Ed, please, by all means, jump on in. John is in the studio with us, so please, where are we going today with your research?
So I wanted to share today something that's been out there for a while called interference RNA. This first came into the spotlight probably in 2006 when the Nobel Prize was awarded for research done here that was actually done 8 years earlier. But it's this fascinating approach where you can actually control the proteins that a cell will generate. And proteins in the cell are what give us all our characteristics. I mean, the color of our skin, the color of our eyes, our strength. And if you can inhibit some of the proteins, you can actually control some of the phenotypic outcomes that you see or perceive in somebody.
Okay, so better, clearer eyes, pretty eyes, softer skin, taller people,
Precisely.
body. Okay, so yeah, all right, the re-engineering of the human race. Get it?
Right. So, and it's also involved in disease.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can think HIV, cancer, and a host of other things that are out there. So after this 2006 award from the Nobel Committee, it became really popular. A bunch of companies sprung up. Probably the most well known is Alnylam, and they actually have a compound that's pretty close to being in front of the FDA for approval. Okay. There's a bunch of other ones. Dicerna is another one that's been out there for a while, and then one that I'm pretty interested in called RXi Pharmaceuticals.
Let's talk about it.
So RXi Pharmaceuticals differentiates themselves from the other players in the space by the way they deliver the RNAi or interference RNA. And what this interference RNAi does is it, as I said before, it controls which proteins are expressed by the cell. One of the early problems that was observed was actually getting this RNAi into the cell so it could do its job. Right. Once it's in there, it does a great job. But the problem was getting it in there. So there are a few different approaches used. A lot of these had negative impacts on the cells. They destroy the cells, and it wasn't very effective. But RXi Pharmaceuticals actually was able to have a self-delivery mechanism that used a chemical compound that probably somewhere deep in their patents, but it is able to enter the cell and do the work that needs to get done.
Okay, what's the outcome?
So the outcome is actually controlling cancer or a number of other diseases. So right now, RXi has two compounds that are in phase 2 trials. So as probably our listeners know, that's a little bit further than half the way along in terms of doing your clinical trials, and they're expecting to have a readout before the end of the year. In an indication for scarring, for dermal scarring.
Oh, okay. What kinds of cancer? Let's circle back and figure out.
Right. So this is actually, even though it's less well along in the development process, it's a lot more exciting. Probably our listeners who pay attention closely to the biotech space are familiar with CAR-T therapy. Okay. There were two drugs that were approved, one in August and one in October, that really made waves because they were really cutting edge in adoptive cell therapy and CAR-T therapy. And what RXi is able to do is actually augment the performance of this CAR-T therapy in two ways. Number one, it allows the cells that are working for CAR-T therapy to actually have longer lives, to propagate more and to extend the duration of the therapy.
Okay, Ed, got any questions?
John, you mentioned something potentially earth moving when you think about interference RNA and what it potentially can do. I'm going to throw a curveball at you here to think about for a potential product like this. What do you see as the quote unquote those things we don't expect? In other words, the unintended consequences of having this particular potential for protein control within the cell.
Sure. I mean, you can turn off proteins that are critical for for health or life. There was an early trial that was done in I think macular degeneration, which enable macular degeneration will let you go blind if you don't control it. And there was a potential issue that this actually may cause blindness. So that is a downside, but that's why we have these clinical trials, and we spend a lot of time ensuring that all the safety issues are addressed and we fully understand how it works.
What do you see as some of the real, I guess, short-term catalysts as far as RNA interference RNA therapy is concerned?
Sure. Well, I mentioned one of the companies, Alnylam, that is pretty well along. They're pretty close to the end of their phase 3 work right now in an indication for amyloidosis. And if that's approved, that'll be a good nod by the FDA showing that there's something to be had here.
How easy it is, I guess easy is the wrong word, but when you look at something like interference RNA and you look at the potential for different protein synthesis, I guess the question that comes up is when you're manipulating the protein within the cell, how do you control that process? Is it even possible to control it while you're actually using this particular drug?
Yeah, the interesting thing about RNAi is that it is very precise in terms of the proteins that it turns off and in there. So it doesn't affect other proteins. Basically it aligns the base pairs that we all know, the CTAG that are in our cells. It aligns those and it only focuses on one at a time. So it really is not going to affect proteins that aren't part of the focus.
All right, but let's take a break now, John, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the business side of things and the other competitors in the space, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back with John Vandermosten, Senior Biotechnical Analyst at Zacks Small Cap Research, scr.zacks.com. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba and Ed Baxter, and this segment brought to you by Lots of Yachts. We'll be right back. Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. All right, we've got John Vandermosten, Senior Biotechnology Analyst, Zacks Small Cap Research, scr.zacks.com. All right, John, let's pick up where we left off, and I know Ed has just been all over John with questions during the break. Ed, please jump in anywhere you want.
Again, Ed Baxter, Bison Creek Capital. John, you spent some time talking about CAR-T therapy, and we look at what the efficacy could be as far as interference RNA in this particular therapy is concerned. Can you kind of give us some color on that?
Sure, I can. One of the things our last speaker did, Dr. Williams, he mentioned about combination therapies, and that's so prevalent in the immunology space that pretty much every company is working on something there. So that's also true for interference RNA and CAR-T therapy. Let me just spend a minute on CAR-T therapy and what it is. It's been in the news a lot recently. As I said before, there's been 2 approvals just in the last several months in this space. The first was Novartis's Kymriah. It was for blood cancer. And the second was Gilead's Yescarta, which is also for blood cancer. And I'll just explain how this works because it's pretty fascinating, actually. So if an individual has leukemia, they can go into the lab, they'll draw their blood, which has immune cells in it. They will take that blood and the immune cells, and in another part of the lab, they'll go and they'll modify those cells with a chimeric antigen receptor. And basically what this does is it allows the immune cell to recognize cancer cells. There's a marker on a lot of cancer cells, and both of these drugs, Yescarta and Kymriah, recognize this receptor. It's called CD19. Okay, both of them recognize the same thing, and the cancer cells express this CD19. So what happens is in the lab they'll prime these immune cells from the patient to recognize CD19. Right. So after they do this, they expand the cells and they take them from like 1 million cells to 1 billion cells or 10 billion cells. So that's called expansion. And then they'll reinfuse it in the patient several weeks later after it's had time to grow. And these primed immune cells, or CAR-T cells, chimeric antigen receptor T cells, will go in and find the cancer and kill it.
When you look at the CAR-T cells and that level of explosion as far as population is concerned, does it also continue to explode within the body?
Well, that's a very good question, and it leads me on to one of the ways that it can combine with what RXi is doing. So these cells are a little bit more mature. They're effector cells, and they're the ones that fight the cancer. There are cells earlier in the state of differentiation, which are called they're more in a stem-like state, And those are the ones that divide and grow and expand, right, when they're younger. There are fewer of these cells in the reinfused product. So it is a little bit of a problem because, when the effector cells, the older cells, they die out, then the therapy is kind of winding down, right?
So in its current form, you would say you could argue that the therapy itself does wind down and at some point has to be redone on a regular basis.
Precisely.
I guess, thinking in that particular format, is it possible to create a stem-like cell that essentially does the same thing, that has the ability to recreate itself within the bloodstream?
Yes, and this is one of the areas where RXi is working with its interference RNA. What they are attempting to do and working on doing and developing is using the interference RNA to go in there and code for a protein that will actually maintain more cells in the stem-like state. And what that means is that the duration of the therapy will be longer. So it'll attack the cancer for longer, and it has a higher probability of completely eliminating the cancer as well.
That's impressive. As a biotech analyst, when you evaluate a company like this and versus the others in its hemisphere, in its atmosphere here, how do you decide or potentially decide who could be the winners versus the losers here? For those of us on the investment side, that's what we want to hear more than anything else, is looking at what differentiates RXi from other companies who are doing the same thing, and what does that future look like for them going forward?
Sure. Well, it all comes down to data. How do the phase 2 and phase 3 results look? We're a little ways away from that right now for RXi, but I think that cancer is a huge space. They have shown efficacy, in some other indications that they have, so we know it works. And I would say for RXi in particular, their self-delivery technology is a lot better than other of the companies out there that are working in the same space. As I mentioned earlier, some of them use viral vectors to get into the cell. Some use lipids to get in the cell, and those damage the cells. But RXi's self-delivery technology is a much better way to get the interference RNA into the cell.
John, let me jump in here for a second here. What about the other side of this? You discussed in great detail what's driving the company, but what about the financials, the market cap, the symbol, things of that nature?
Sure.
Because there's a whole other side that people need to consider before they start moving into this company.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that I think is quite interesting about this company is the market cap's only $14 million. The potential for this technology could be, in the billions. For example, Alnylam, they're actually a $14 billion company. So you see there's 1,000 times potential here if they're able to do what Alnylam has, and it's definitely possible. They are trading at on the NASDAQ, and I'm looking here at my stats, about 24 million shares outstanding, and they've had
symbol?
a pretty the symbol, yes, it is RXII. That's the most important part.
Yeah, that's a big part of that. That's all right. All right. I was just talking to Giles at Zacks, and is there anything in particular that we're talking about in regards to Zacks and this company? Are you guys doing any research reports on them? Is there anything coming out there?
Yes, we've written several articles on them, and they are a client of ours. We want to share the detail in terms of their programs. So yes, they are.
How do you get the report? I mean, tell.
So yes, if you go into scr.zacks.com, you'll be able to find a listing of all our reports.
Perfect. All right, you'll be coming back with more of them, right?
I certainly will.
All right. Thanks, John, for being on the show.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to move now on to our stocks to watch with David Williams, a page trader. But before we go, segment brought to you by scr.zacks.com, Zacks Research. And I just want to say a special thanks out to the entire Zacks team for bringing us the best they've got. We really appreciate that. Segment brought to you by Zacks.com.